everybody, it is Radical Readings here. Today we are going to be reading out a creepypasta by the name of The Truth About Funko Pops, created by Rorarctic Hare. I don't have any prelude or preamble for you, so let's just get right into the video. It was a humid summer evening, the sunset lining the horizon with a warm, pink blush, leaving the rest of the sky in a deeper, yet deeper blue. I remembered the way the sky looked that day like I was looking at a painting as it was the last I saw of it on that day, May 3rd of 2016, before everything would change, before my expectations as to what could and couldn't exist were shattered. The last I saw of it before I would avoid ever setting foot in a GameStop ever again. To elaborate, I made it my last stop out of town for the day. It was errands before that, as a friend gave me some money to pick up something from them. I won't give away their real name, so I'll just call them Cece here. You see, they were big into Five Nights at Freddy's, and they were looking for a GameStop exclusive plush toy of one of the characters, and it was apparently set to release around this time. I'm not much into the games myself. I only know the basic gist and some details I loosely retained from Cece's long-winded ramblings about the game's convoluted lore. But I thought the characters looked cute enough, and it was my friend I was doing this for, so I don't mind doing them a favor. They weren't able to get it themselves, so they gave me the money to get it. Stepping through the doors, my glasses fogged up a little at the sudden change in climate from the hot and heavy moisture of that summer evening into a cool, air-conditioned strip mall shop. "Hello, welcome to GameStop," called the employee behind the counter. "Is there anything I can help you find today?" "Hi, yes, I am looking for something, actually," I replied. "I was sent here for an exclusive item." Perking up at the response, probably because it was something other than a "no thank you, I'm just looking around," they got up from their seat behind the counter and clasped their hands together inquisitively. "And what exclusive item would that be?" I reluctantly asked about the exclusive plush toy I heard about. I was afraid I sounded weird asking about a stuffed bear like I was 5. I'm not the judgmental type, but stigmas in a southern country are a whole different beast, and I was afraid of any coming mockery or condescension. Surprisingly, the next words to come out of their mouth was, "Oh yeah, we got them, I think. You a fan too?" I gave the honest answer that I was picking it up for a friend. She complimented my kind actions and headed to the bathroom to see if there were any left in stock. As I waited for the employee to return with the plush, I kept myself occupied watching the game previews on the screen mounted to the wall behind the counter. I can't remember what games they were showing specifically. I think it at least consisted of whatever Mario or Kirby or Pokemon title was the newest release that time around. After that failed to keep me entertained long enough, I decided to idly wander around and see what else the store had to offer. There wasn't anyone else in the building, and even if there were, it's not like I was the sociable type that could just strike up a conversation with any random stranger. It was the 5th cycle around the small shop when I snapped back to reality and realized just how much time had passed since the employee entered the back room. I found it strange. Surely it couldn't take that much time to search such a small back room for a single item, I thought to myself. I called out with a, "Hello, are you still back there?" Making sure not to shout too loud as I didn't want to come off as rude, but no response sounded from the other side. "Are you okay back there?" I continued. Perhaps they were tired of the work and would better respond to a question regarding their well-being as opposed to customer service. But alas, no response. I was beginning to grow worried. It was nearing closing time. No, it was past closing time. A look at the time on my device's lock screen spiked my heartbeat. I didn't want to stay after hours, and my family was probably worried sick about me not being home by 9. No curfews, it was just a routine for me. It's after hours. Sorry for keeping you at work this long. I'll just get out of your hair. Sorry. I stammered out as I headed for the double doors, but my heart skipped a beat when the doors didn't budge as I tried to pull them open. I tried rattling them a little more before coming to any conclusions, but the lack of results confirmed my suspicion. I was locked in the GameStop. At this point, my mind was racing. Surely the doors couldn't just lock themselves. That would require the employee to come back out and lock the doors herself, unless they had an automatic locking door on a timer, but it would have made some kind of locking noise as it was locking, wouldn't it? I didn't want to be a further bother, but this required the attention of an employee. I went over to the back room door and knocked, relaying the situation. Concerningly, but not surprisingly, no response. I was getting desperate, so I tried opening the back door myself. It was also locked. I should have expected that. I pulled out my phone in a desperate attempt to call 911, but there was no signal. It was like the powers that be wanted me to stay in this locked store. It seemed all I could do was wait until sunrise when the building opened back up. I couldn't just break the windows. It was one of those stores that had the metal bars behind them to prevent break-ins, and even if I didn't, my escape would come at the cost of property damage I don't think I could afford to pay for. To keep myself occupied, I tried my previous cycle of examining what games and other products were in stock, but my mind couldn't settle for anything more than nervous pacing, until something caught my eye. It was something I noticed before, but at this point, it really started to bother me. In the wall of Funko Pops, every single box was neatly aligned like bricks in a wall, all except for one. Sticking out from the rest ever so slightly was a boxed vinyl figurine of Pete, the Mickey Mouse character. Heading towards it, I pushed it back in to align with the rest, and that's when it happened. As I pushed the box back in, I heard something click behind it, and the shelf was pushed out, swinging open ever so slowly to reveal itself as a massive door, hidden in plain sight like I was in a detective movie. I just hoped it wasn't the murder mystery type. At first, I was hesitant to enter the dark hallway beyond the newly found threshold, but seeing as I had no other option, I ventured forth into the unknown. God, what a mistake that was. Save for the faint glow peeking out from under another door at the bottom. Far too late into the night, I finally had the sinking feeling that something was not just wrong, it was terribly wrong, and I decided I would much rather wait back where the customers were allowed to be, during opening time, that is. As I took the first step back, a slow, heavy creaking caused my ears to perk as I looked behind me to see... Oh no. The secret door was beginning to close on its own. That can't be, I thought to myself as I booked it, not unless... The door shut just as I made it to the end of the hallway. The pit in my stomach sank deeper and deeper as I frantically slammed my fists against the door, shouting for someone to come and get me out. I wasn't exactly the strongest nor biggest person, but I could definitely make enough noise to have gotten anyone's attention were they there. It took until my voice was hoarse and my fists were aching to finally give up hope that anyone would come save me. I was in a panic, sat against a corner trying to catch my shortening breath and regain my composure. Took a while, but eventually I was able to breath again. and shaking significantly less. Standing back up, I figured I had no other choice but to head back down the stairs. Until the morning comes, I'm on my own. It was a long way down, far deeper than what you'd imagine out of a single store in a strip mall, which raises its own series of questions, but none of them were at the top of my mind like finding a way out of this place. Several flights of stairs later, I finally find myself at the mysterious door at the bottom of the stairwell. Taking another moment to once again catch my breath after the exercise, I cautiously opened the door as slowly and quietly as possible, in case there was someone or something on the other side I'd rather not attract the attention of. To this day, I still don't know if the sight I was greeted with was better or worse than what I was expecting. On the other side of the door, I was greeted by another corridor. The peculiar thing was that this time, instead of the sterile concrete that made up the walls of the stairwell, the walls were lined top to bottom with Funko Pops, stacked and aligned neatly in their boxes with an almost uncanny precision. I was unnerved by the sight at first, but thought that this must have been nothing more than the GameStop finding a use for this hidden section of the building as extra storage, and continued on in the hopes of finding an exit, or at least someone that can get me out of here. At the end of the corridor was a wall where the hallway split into two paths, one left, one right. I contemplated which path to choose until I heard footsteps coming from the right turn. Finally, someone I can talk to, safe at last. I tried calling out to them, but my voice was still weak from all the screaming I did before. With no other choice, I went further into this strange secret room to follow whoever else I was down here with. If only I knew better. If only I knew to avoid them at all costs. Following the footsteps, I continued calling out to them, but my voice was never enough to attract their attention. In my desperation to keep up with whoever it was I was pursuing, it took me far too long to realize how peculiar this area was. Forked paths leading to so many twisting and turning halls that branched out into more, every wall still lined with those god-forsaken vinyl figures, the only type of kind of item that was down here. This wasn't a storage room where all the various products would be neatly stacked and organized in shelves. This was a labyrinth. Funko Pop labyrinth. The realization only startled me briefly before I was calmed with the notion that the figure I was following the footsteps of would help escort me out once they knew there was a customer trapped here after hours. As that reassurance washed over me, I was finally catching up, but then I noticed something even stranger in this architectural madness. Whereas the start of this maze adorned the walls with a random variety of vinyl character effigies, the walls were now only adorned with one character. It was a human boy with red hair and freckles, sporting a crown. There were different-looking figurines, yes, but they were all this likeness of this one boy, as the labels on the boxes all read one single moniker. Freddy Funko. What the hell is Freddy Funko? I guess we'll find out. Surely this indicated some kind of milestone in the madhouse of this basement. And it did. Dear God, it did. Preparing to turn that final corner, I was ready to call out one last time until I heard a different noise. A grotesque, guttural retching, followed by the equally disgusting, wet sounds of what I could only have assumed to be organic matter and other fluids hitting the rough, carpeted ground. A foul stench filled the air, the rustic smell of blood mixed with the chemical sting of burning vinyl. Against all the internal and external signs telling me to turn back and run, I peeked around the corner just to see what it was I was following all this time. What I saw leave my mind. On the other side was a room of wider dimensions than all the other corridors I have navigated, and in the center was a mascot costume, donning a white blood-stained shirt and blue pants. Their forearms were swollen, like some disgusting imitation of Popeye the Sailor Man, ending in hands with fingers that are unnaturally distended out into blood-red, spider-like appendages. The head was round, with fake ginger hair adorning a worn crown. Was this supposed to be Freddy Funko? I guess. I pondered amongst the millions of other questions racing through my mind, but looking down, I saw what it was this thing was doing, which created about 100 more. On the ground, in front of the mascot, was a pile of sickly orange sludge, undoubtedly the source of the putrid smell, and in the puddle were 3 small creatures squirming in the mess. Upon closer inspection, they looked exactly like Funko Pops, but they were moving. That alone was already enough to make me feel sick, you and me both, buddy. But what followed next was the moment that cemented my desire to never set foot in any of these stores again. The mascot, still with its back to me, picked up one of the beings, specifically the one resembling a comic book hero I couldn't be bothered to know the name of. Its limbs aimlessly flailed about as it was lifted off the ground. Holding the small creature up to its face in one hand, it grabbed its head with the other, and a small snap of the neck rendered it immobile in its hands. Carrying the small corpse between its fingers like it were nothing more than a wet paper towel, the costume hobbled over to a corner of the room where there were 2 boxes. Out of one, they pulled out a hemisphere of the thermoformed plastic that made the blister packaging to hold the figurines in the box. And out of the other, well, it was an empty Funko Pop box. Specifically, one depicting the character that respective husk of a formerly living being resembled. It simply pulled out the right box with no hesitation, not even a second to look away from the small, lifeless body to make sure it didn't get the wrong box. It was like it's done this song and dance countless times before, and everything was just like thoughtless muscle memory to it. Dear God, that's how they're able to produce so many of these things at the rate they do. This was how every Funko Pop was made. They were living creatures brought into the world just to die and stagnate in these cardboard coffins. They were all infantile corpses, every single one lining the walls of this labyrinth. No, this nest. That's why they all possessed those horrible soulless eyes. Those eyes that littered every nook and cranny of the corridors. Every single one. You think they got a different guy throwing up in every GameStop location, or is it just the one working overtime? Anyways, trying to hold in my nausea, I tried taking a step back as I turned the other way. My heart sank when I mistakenly kicked a box loose from the wall, making a noise that definitely would have been heard. Everything stopped for a moment. The noises, the sense of smell, my heartbeat. But it all kicked back into maximum overdrive when a horrific, ear-splitting shriek told me everything I needed to do in that moment. Run. Adrenaline coursing through my veins, I was running as fast as I could, my feet pounding the carpeted floor with an intensity I had never known myself capable of before. Again, I was never the most fit type, even I was surprised to know how fast I was moving. But it was only barely enough to keep away from that thing, as I could hear, even feel its footsteps getting closer and closer to mine. Every step behind me shook the ground, but I dared not look behind me. God forbid what would happen to me if I let myself get caught by it. Thankfully, the thing's movement was a bit clumsier than mine. Every sharp turn I took, it stumbled into the walls of this vinyl maze, more loose boxes cluttering to the ground as I broadened the distance. I had no idea where I was going, but that didn't stop me from running for my life. At this point, nothing could. Unfortunately, I was stopped dead in my tracks as I tripped over another loose box dislodged from the walls. I was scrambling to get back up as quick as possible, and that's when I looked behind me and saw its face. Dear God, its face. Dear God, its face. The soulless eyes of those stupid vinyl paperweights would have been a mercy compared to what was gazing at me with an indescribable, burning desire to kill. Thankfully, I created enough distance to get right back up and continue running, this time cautious to any obstacles on the ground. Just when I thought the chase would never end, I was met with a door. I didn't recognize it as the one I entered this maze through, but in my desperation I threw it open and kept running. Thankfully, it wasn't a dead end, as there were more stairs going upward, similar to the stairwell I used to get here, except at the top was another door. Not the heavy-duty one that had closed me in here, it was the same as the one I burst through to get here. Finally, almost free, I thought to myself as I scaled the steps. It was at that moment that my adrenaline rush had started to die down. No, I don't want to die. I have to keep moving. The fear of death overridden my aching body as I powered through the final flight of stairs, and the door was right in front of me. Reaching out for the handle, it swung open before I could grab it, and everything fell into a relieving hush as I felt a non-mutated hand pull me out of the darkness by my arm. Oh my God, what were you doing back here? It was the employee. I was in the back room, the real back room. I couldn't tell you if I was relieved or angered at that moment, but whatever I felt was miles better than the fear of being caught by whatever that thing back there was. I took a moment to catch my breath and explained that I was looking for them after they just left me to stay in the locked store. What? All that happened during my lunch break? A lunch break? I snapped back. At 10 in the evening? Fine, a dinner break, whatever. Food was eaten, and what do you mean it was locked? I didn't lock the building. Whatever, please. I need out of here. I need fresh air. Please. I exhaustedly replied. They obviously agreed and opened the back door to escort me out. I've never been so relieved to leave an air-conditioned room to face the humid summer right outside. I was ready to book it back home when I heard the employee stop me in my tracks. Hey, wait, one more thing. Turning around, I was face to face with them, holding a GameStop shopping bag in their hands. Take the plush, she said. Keep the money, just don't tell anyone what you saw down there. Her demeanor was changed from her friendly customer service persona to something a lot more intimidating. Like if I said no in that moment, she would have dragged me back down into those hellish catacombs. I didn't dare to test it as I took the back and tiredly muttered out a, "Thank you, I won't," before leaving. I was safe and I was home that midnight. I gave the plush to Cece the next day, but not the money. I felt like I at least earned the $20 or so after what I went through to get this for them. And that was that. At least, until now. For the longest time, I wanted to keep what I saw down there a secret, as per the wishes of that poor employee that had to put up with the whole ordeal. But this story isn't quite yet over. The morning of me writing this, August 11th, 2016, I was delivered a package. It had no return address or label, just my name and address written on it in what I thought was a rustic red marker, like I was sent an envelope. At first, I thought it was a gift from one of my uncles who had a similar manner of addressing mail. God, how I wish that was correct. In the box was a Funko Pop 2-pack box, one depicting Freddy Funko, and the other side of the box had an empty plastic blister where a figure would have been. One of me. The art on that side of the box is my likeness translated into the style of the figurines, my full name beside it, and on the top part of the package's front, where a logo of the source material those figures are based on would be, there was my home address and state instead. I was so horrifically entranced by the sight of this package, I didn't even notice the note in the box. It read in those same red letters, "I miss you. Let's play again sometime soon." I haven't slept at all tonight. I've been writing this with one hand, as I have a kitchen knife in the other, waiting for that bastard to come to me. I know he's here. I see the shadow of its crown cast against the opposite wall of my room, with every lightning strike sending another split-second light source through my window. I know I don't have much longer to type. To whoever is reading this, stop buying Funko Pops. Dispose of the ones already in your home, and if you ever set foot in a GameStop, don't ever entertain the idea of touching any of those god-forsaken boxes. So, yeah, that was The Truth About Funko Pops by Rorarctic Hare. That was a very interesting little pasta. It has some images attached, so I'll be sure to include those in the editing of the video. You've probably already seen them. The last one is, that's, I assume, Freddy himself. I don't know if this is based off of a real Funko Pop. I saw Freddy. I mean, what comes to mind is Krueger and Fazbear. I don't know what this one is, but... Well, anyway, thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you liked watching this video. I will see you all in the next video. This is Radical Readings, signing off.